Join us today on the Final Hour podcast as we discuss a low-scale war on the Israeli-Syrian border.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Jim Hammond.
I'm Lonaiah.
I'm John Gov't.
And we have Jerry back there.
How's it going?
It's going.
We're doing good, Jerry.
Jeremiah.
We're doing good. Okay.
John,
Okay.
I have
And
a
so-
question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever said you betcha?
Oh, you betcha.
Okay.
Time and time again.
So this week, Jim was talking, and
Yeah.
he said, you betcha. And I thought,
Like 7 times in a day.
yes, you betcha.
Suddenly.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said you
Suddenly.
betcha.
I
Unless
caught
it's
myself.
Yeah. I definitely do. I think it's just like the things when you start making fun of Gen Z speak, and
then
all
you
of a
start to
sudden
do
you
it.
end up saying it like sincerely.
Is that when you really felt Minnesotan, Jim?
You betcha.
Come on.
It reminds me of the movie Fargo, which none of us should have watched.
Oh, sure.
So, listen, very violent movie. Don't just look that one up.
Wood chipper, huh?
I didn't ever watch
I
it.
haven't either.
Okay. Well,
Isn't it what-
sounds like you have.
I might.
Okay.
But those Dakota accents, John,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't have one. My nephew has been in North Dakota for 2 years, and he talks like a North Dakota.
Okay, don't go ahead and combine North Dakota
North?
and South Dakota. If you
Oh, are you
want
from
to
South?
know, I'm from South Dakota.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
from
Wow.
western South Dakota, the Black Hills
He's from the Black
specifically.
Hills, Rapid City.
The Black Hills,
Rapid,
the,
that's what this
the
girl said.
western South Dakota accent is actually one of those that newscasters aspire to have because it's devoid of specific accents.
Did you guys know that South Dakota was an elite speech? I didn't.
No, it's a plain vanilla speech,
Oh, okay.
which appeals to both sides of the country.
All I know is
Jim's never sounded more Minnesotan until you betcha
the
day.
Black Hills, the best vacation I've ever had.
Black Hills are
And
they're
I've been
a gem.
all over the world.
An absolute gem.
The best vacation I ever had was Banff, Canada. That
believe it.
is.
The
You should
views
put it
that
on
I
your
have
list.
seen
What was your
online-
favorite thing about that vacation? I'm just curious. Traveling
glacial
around
lakes?
Canada in a giant van.
The glacial lakes or the giant mountains?
You guys, we hiked this mountain. It was
Yeah.
called Amphitheater. It was
Amphitheater or amphitheater?
Amphitheater Mountain.
Didn't
and,
you guys drive clear to Florida after Banff? In the
That
same,
would be
I think-
in the same
long-
giant van.
It
It was
was
a
a
really
long-
tall van.
That's
No, that was different. That was
Okay.
a different trip.
was that the
All right.
tracker van?
It was like a kid.
transit
number
I
van.
made?
It was
yes,
a-
yes, it was a transit.
It was a special
We've had
van.
some special vehicles, but
And so, listen.
They were bringing some cargo from Fargo.
Wow.
Anyways.
I hope you're still tuned in out there. We had James Tan last week, but before we
Yeah.
had 2 episodes talking about what Iran is doing in Syria. Culturally,
ran so far away.
flock of seagulls. Militarily,
Couldn't get away.
I love that song.
Wow,
Religiously,
John, you should be in the worship band.
culturally.
Okay, sorry,
We're
Jim.
all in the
Jim is
worship
trying
band.
to just push through this.
Hey, at church, we're all in the worship band, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Some people shouldn't be, but
Well,
I can't sing. Go ahead, Jim. Back to
Iran.
the news.
We were speaking of Iran. Take it away, Pastor Jim.
I don't have time to go into a detailed review, but along the Syrian border, a place called the Golan Heights, this is going to be a really short review. I had an opportunity to take a tour in a Jeep along that border. That border is about 45 miles between Syria and Israel. And we talked about how Iran is putting up mosques every mile. They've got like 50 mosques. They've got they're putting up hospitals, religious centers, schools, which we all know. And the Israelis are telling us they will be shooting missiles out of those places because it's really hard for the Israelis to hit those places back.
Right. The retaliation.
If they're hiding behind hospitals, children in schools. And so we talked about how they're changing the culture, they're changing the history from Syrian history to Persian history, buying up property, the government is, and really we haven't gotten into necessarily what's going on in Lebanon. And this little series is coming to an end. We'll probably spend 5 to 7 minutes on Lebanon, which is just going to be straight facts. I have numbers on
Straight facts,
missiles. It's amazing what they have in Lebanon, what the Hezbollah has, troop numbers, all that. But
next week, Jim?
Yeah, that's
Is that next week?
Yes, Lonaiah, that's next week.
Thank you.
And so we talked about a little bit about the Gaza Strip down in the south, but really to sum the whole thing up is it's a military ring of fire that Iran is creating on the borders of Israel. I think I mentioned that Hezbollah, which is a proxy army of Iran, and other Iranian militias listed. Those militias in detail 2 episodes ago. Even in place, there's militias in place in Iraq and Yemen, set to fire huge amounts of rockets out of Iraq and Yemen into Israel. So picking up where we left off 2 weeks ago, before Dr. James Tan, the Israelites being surrounded by these militias, in a lot of cases, they're highly trained troops. What the Israelis believe that what Iran is trying to get to the point is where they have the ability to fire in 6,000 missiles a day from all those directions and just keep it up day after day after day after day for a month, 2 months. From the north, that's Lebanon, northeast Syria, parts of Yemen, also parts of Iraq, down in the south, Gaza, 6,000 missiles a day. And so think about this. Israel is 290 miles long, 85 miles wide. I've said that before. Comparing to Minnesota, 406 miles long, 308 miles wide.
Right.
Minnesota is 86,000 square miles. Israel is 8,000 square miles.
Wow.
Approximate. They're 1/10 in square mileage, the size of Minnesota. Imagine getting 6,000 rockets coming from Canada, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Right?
That's intense.
And every day, 6,000 rockets. And so this is why there's this buildup. And the Iranians just don't stop, getting elaborate missile systems and guidance systems and drones and even anti-aircraft stuff. You've got the sea to the west of Israel, and this is why the ocean, and this is why you're seeing the Israelis with their jets, some surface-to-surface missiles, some they're using their ships out there in the Mediterranean Sea cruise missiles, and they're bombing. They're trying to take out on a daily basis the missile launchers, all kinds of drones, troops, everything Iran's moving in. And Iran is bringing in truckloads daily, plane loads. And what you have is it's a low-scale war. It's a low-scale war going on. Something happens every day. And all this with the Russians sitting over there watching very closely. The Israelis openly told us in these briefings we were getting that it's very important to them to be able to do all this, bomb the Israeli militias or Iranian militias, but at the same end, try not to accidentally provoke the Russians where the Russians have an excuse to get involved.
Right.
And I don't think the Russians want to yet. Otherwise, they would have. They shot a few. They shot a few anti-aircraft missiles once. So far, that's all that's happened. But just a quick side note: there is also a Sudanese civil war in Sudan between 2 generals, which Sudan is one of the countries that attacks Israel. In Ezekiel 38 war.
Yeah.
And we might see that.
And there's been some more Sudan news coming out too. There's
Didn't
there's
they
a lot.
shut down the U.S. embassy there,
Yeah.
and like 2
Yep.
Americans
Sudan
have been
is-
killed, and
Yep.
they're having 16,000 Americans shelter in place over there right now.
Yeah, it
In
is.
Sudan?
They're saying
Something's
be very
coming.
very careful because they're ready to.
There's 2 generals that have gotten along up till now, and now they're fighting for power. And you know, the Sudanese army is one of the armies that try to invade Israel in the Ezekiel 38 war. We did a whole 2 podcasts on that way early. And, you know, what is this, episode 61
Yeah.
or 2?
61.
And so guess who we have taken advantage of the situation in Sudan?
Dun, 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 dun.
The Russians and the Iranians, you know, are getting involved. And just like they did in Syria, the Syria civil war, that's how they got their foothold in Syria. So as I said, Iran is trying to get to the point where Israel is surrounded, and all these enemies, little militia armies, proxy armies, have the ability to launch 6,000 rockets a day into Israel from the north, east, and the south. That is the equation that the Iranians are trying to get to, and what the Israelis are trying to stop. All that aside from the fact that Iran is very close to a nuclear bomb.
Right.
And basically, when I was in Israel, all the talk was when are they going to hit them? You know, when is the Israeli military going to hit Iran, trying to take out their nuclear capability? Meanwhile, in the past 10 years, I was told when I was over there by the guy that I was getting the briefing from in the Golan Heights on the Syrian border that Israel for the past 10 years has a strategy that they call the campaign between wars. The number one thing, the last war over there was the Lebanon. There's been a couple of wars in Lebanon, smaller scale, but still wars where thousands died. Not like 1967, not like 1973. Still wars in Lebanon. And the number one thing they've been trying to do is prevent more enemies from having better capabilities that will bring Israel or put Israel in a more advantageous starting point when the next war starts. About 2 months ago, they hit a factory in Iran that makes drones. In Iran. The Israelis are hitting places in Iran. You don't see it on the news. They bombed an installation in Iran. That is what they told me. People over there are privy to this information, and they also were able to destroy hypersonic missiles that fly 5 times the speed of sound.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
To take care of the drone factory and the hypersonic missiles, they used these little drones they call squadcopters to do the bombing.
Sweet.
And we know about the hypersonic missiles because Russia unveiled them against the Ukraine.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And a day after that, they hit a convoy crossing from Iraq. I'm just giving you 1 week here. Into Syria with Israeli jets. There were 24 trucks in the convoy. But just to show you the quality of Israeli intelligence, they destroyed only 6 of the 24 trucks because they knew that those 6 and those 6 only were carrying missiles and missile guidance systems into Syria. The
That's
Israelis,
amazing.
and the Israelis believed that would be pointed at them eventually.
Right.
All this stuff gets pointed at them.
Got to be.
And
Yep.
a day after that, they hit another convoy. A week after that, they hit the Aleppo airport in Syria with Israeli jets doing the bombing, where they were criticized internationally. You know, at the beginning of the year, a couple times since they have bombed the Damascus airport in Syria, and they said every time we do it, I talked to the guy that has to answer and get on the phone or Zoom call with American senators that are saying, why are you bombing a civilian airport? As if, duh, like our senators don't know.
Right.
And the Israelis said, oh, that's simply explained. And I'll take you through it word for word. It's just simple how to explain that. The Iranians have made a decision. They're using civilians as a shields. It's just a normal.
But isn't that like evident in all the mosques and the schools and everything that they're putting on the border on purpose? Like, why is that even a question? Why are they even questioning what they're doing? Using civilians as shields.
They've done it for years.
They've done
Right.
it for generations.
Iran,
and
Hezbollah, Hamas.
Hummus.
Hummus also.
Not
A lot of
not hummus.
hummus.
Okay.
Hamas is down in the Gaza Strip, the main terrorist group, but
Interesting.
they are now themselves in Lebanon and Syria also. So, the Israelis explained to our senators, word for word, they bombed the Damascus and Aleppo airports in Syria. They had incredible intelligence. This is exactly what happened. This all started with Iranian passengers that get to the airport in Tehran. That's Iran. With their suitcases, these passengers are allowed to go to Terminal 5 with their suitcases. Isn't Israeli intelligence incredible?
Crazy. They got to have some insiders.
Have you ever seen the Netflix thing, Fauda?
I haven't.
It's
Never
a
even heard
big
of it.
time show. I'm not promoting it. It's a little violent.
He's just referring to it.
PG-13-ish, but it's about the Mossad and, just that game that is played in it. It reminds me of that. They know the very terminal, the very passengers. The passengers leave the suitcase. Someone opens the suitcases right there in Terminal 5 of the Tehran airport, puts a GPS unit inside the suitcase that turns an ADAR rocket into an accurate missile in the suitcase. So then someone gets on the plane, someone else takes the suitcase, and they let the suitcase on the Boeing 747 with the suitcase. Yeah. They land in Damascus in Amman Airlines. They tell you what the airlines is, with the suitcase. So these guys get off the plane with the suitcase. The Israelis are watching all this. Mm-hmm. And they're in a quandary at this point because you can't hit the civilian plane with civilians on it. You can't hit the airport that the missile is now in because it's a civilian airport. And so they wait till everyone's off the plane, and once the plane is cleared, the Israelis went ahead, and they've done this numerous times, just completely destroyed 2 runways. Yeah. Even though they didn't get that particular missile. So why did they just bomb the runway? And they're sending a dual message. First, to the puppet Syrian regime, don't cooperate with the Iranians, and it tells the Iranians, we're not going to tolerate it. And it stops deliveries for a few days until they can get the runway repaired, which they do very fast. Although I do not believe the Syrian regime has a lot of choice at this point, but to completely cooperate with the Iranians, the main thing, Israel, the different generals, the colonels in the Israeli army who had the honor of being able to listen to just briefing after briefing, while I was on the Christians United for Israel, CUFI John Hagee Rabbi Scheinberg Fellowship Tour.
Wow, you got that right, Jim.
You nailed that.
With 15 pastors.
Didn't it feel like a promo ad for it?
Kind of did.
Yeah.
15 pastors, 15 rabbis, John
We're
Hagee,
not sponsored
Diana
by
Hagee,
them.
and
a sponsorship.
we support it.
Yeah, we do
they gave me
support it.
permission to use all their
Yeah,
stuff.
we did. It's just funny.
They say that's why they took us over there, to come back and spread the word. They say this kind of thing, the bombing of convoys with weapons being shipped in, trying to stop planes coming in with missiles on civilian airliners. Also, we've reported many times where the Israelis are trying to kill the Iranian Republican Guard officers that are stationed right over the border, that are overseeing all this. According to the media, Israeli is attacking targets in Syria once a week. The Israelis told us it's every day. Every single day. That's why we're titling this episode a low-scale war, because it is. It basically is.
It's just happening all the time.
Yes, and all this military action against all these targets, even Iran, obviously does not convince Iran to stop with the nuclear weapon. No. It hasn't convinced Iran to stop moving in troops, rockets, artillery into Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq. It hasn't stopped a thing. And the Israelis are pointing out they are the only proactive country in the world right now that is standing against Iran. Everyone's just letting Iran do this. Everyone knows what they're doing. And let me just say what I've said many times. This has nothing to do with the Iranian people, with the Iranian civilian people.
Right.
It doesn't. Right. It has everything to do with the evil Iranian government and the Ayatollah Khomeini who runs the show in Iran. I guarantee if they had fair elections in Iran, none of those people would be running the country. If
I think you could say that for a lot of countries.
Right.
Okay, I heard more than once when I was over there.
You're welcome.
The Israelis talked to. Hey, we didn't say anything.
We didn't.
The Israelis talked about having to speak the language of the Middle East. What's the language? And this was all new to me. In the Middle East, it's not Arabic, it's not Turkish, it's not Kurdish. The Israelis call the language of the Middle East the language of the groups. The Middle East is all about different groups, ethnic groups, religious groups, tribal groups. The Israelis are trying to ally or will work with any group from the Middle East or outside the Middle East that has major concerns with Iran. And there's a lot of groups that I didn't know about, and you probably don't know about. There's a people group we've talked a little bit about. You've got some in Israel, but a lot of them in Syria. They're called the Druze, okay? Druze. Their religion is somewhere between Islam and Christian, kind of in the middle. Huge communities. Huge communities. We've actually been to these communities up in the mountains of Israel. The ones in Israel are pro-Israel. They join the Israeli military. They're Israelis. But they all live together in their little communities. And other groups the Israelis are trying to partner with also. But you have the Druze in Syria fighting actively now. We've seen the Druze.
We did.
In an artillery war, as we're on the Syrian border. If you're going on the Final Hour podcast, you'll stand in that very place. And we could see the back and forth. The Druze were in an artillery battle with a terrorist group called Al-Shabaab in the middle of the Syrian war, civil war a few years ago. But the Druze, they're tough people. In Israel, you have 143,000 Druze. They all live together. Very, very closed community. In Syria, 700,000 Druze.
Wow.
And these Druze, they have military capability. You know, they have their own little setup, right? Their troops, well-trained. In Syria, you know, we had, you were on that trip.
Their food was amazing.
So we drive into this. We watched the artillery battle, find out it's the Druze, and because we're on a Billy Brim tour, Billy Brim's like, okay, everything's done for the day. We're driving to the Druze, and
we're gonna go
visit the Druze up here in the mountains and find out if they know anything about what we just saw.
Right.
And so, you know,
it was really cool.
It's the
Sounds
best
awesome
food.
It was.
But
I was going to say, besides that one restaurant, yes.
The second best, the Druze have amazing food.
They did.
It was amazing food. And
I can't wait.
How many
John,
people?
we won't be going there.
How many people do you think were in that town, that Druze
village?
Town? Yeah, in that village.
Maybe like 1,000, 1,500.
This was a town of at least 10,000. Okay.
My numbers are off.
I know. It's a big town.
But they did have that lady come and speak to us. Do you remember?
Yes.
You have to remember Lonaiah's house is giant. She can't estimate square footage, right?
It was the kind of thing where we drove right to where the leader of the village was.
Yeah, we did.
In a coffee shop.
So you guys, there's 10,000 people in that village, not 1,500. So that's where 1/10 of all the Druze in Israel were stationed.
Good math, quick maths, some would say.
Keep drinking that coffee on there.
There's actually, look, there's 30 to 40,000 Druze in California.
Oh.
That's the biggest group of Druze in, I don't know. Well, does California believe in gun laws? What's their stance there? What? I don't know. They're their own thing. Over there in California.
I'm sure that automatic weapons are illegal in California.
They probably are. Actually, I just saw a thing. There's 10 states where AR. Yeah, they are.
Automatic weapons are illegal in all 50 states.
ARs.
You can have semi-automatic.
No, I'm talking about the ARs.
Semi-automatic.
That's what I'm saying.
Semi-automatic.
There's 10 states. Minnesota is one of them. Yeah, we're like...
we just took it out.
We did just take it out. You can't have them here anymore.
So John,
yesterday I got an email, an alert on my phone about that.
They're coming to your door,
I just
John.
sold mine.
That's
it's okay.
They're coming to your door to get your weapon, John.
He just sold it.
Okay.
Good job,
I just
Jim.
sold it.
All right.
Yes, Jim. Keep going.
Well, I just have a 12 gauge and a 40 H&K 40 that shoots through doors. So
that's good. That's all you need.
that's as good as
The 40 works.
But the Shiite Muslims,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
they sell drugs to the Druze youth over in Syria. And they try to get them addicted to these little drugs.
That's horrible.
It would take a long time to explain this drug. They make them for these little pills for like 3 cents, right? And by the time these pills reach London, they're $40, right? But they give these drugs away to the Druze teenagers. It's kind of a recruiting strategy if they can get them hooked, and they're trying to get them to cross over into the Shiite religion, to become a Shiite Muslim, right? So they sell them very cheap. In the past year, the Israelis are saying the Syrians themselves had a revenue of $3 billion from selling drugs. But that's a whole other
awful.
subject. They're a drug state, right? And
Yeah.
I mean that's a state represented selling drugs. Seriously, the government pocketed that money, but also, this to the Druze kids, the Shiite Muslims, it's how they recruit them into their army. All right, it's one of the ways. And so I'm trying to explain why the Druze are fighting inside Syria against Iranian Shiite militias. For every civilian in Syria, Druze or not, the Shiites are showing up at their doors, eventually in their village. In one hand, they offer them money. These people are very poor. On the other hand, they threaten them with their lives. Join, or your daughter dies. This is what innocent civilians are facing right now in Syria, as well as the Druze, with the Iranians turning the country into a Shiite culture and Shiite state. The average salary of the average civilian in Syria is $37 a month. So you can see how the Iranians can get people to fight for their Shiite militias by offering money.
Yeah.
So they can feed their families. There are different Bedouin tribes in Syria. I always picture a Bedouin tribe with like 15, 20 people. No.
Yeah.
They're huge numbers. And you know what? They're all armed. All right. You have the Kurds, who are well equipped, well trained little army in multiple places in the Middle East that have always been an ally of the U.S. Although, remember the U.S. tried to, the CIA's involved with the Kurdish army, and they get the Kurds to uprise against Saddam Hussein.
Right.
Saddam hits the Kurds with chemical weapons, and we don't help them.
Right.
We left the Kurds out to dry
for many years.
But there's Kurds in Iran that are constantly fighting with the Iranian regime. They're the ones that started the last civilian uprising. But the point is that Israelis are trying to consolidate and work with these different groups all the time, because these groups are contesting Iran themselves. And they're trained, and they have weapons, and they have small armies. You probably never heard of these groups, but in the northern part of Iran, the Azaris. In the northeastern part of Iran, the Tarkanians. In the southeastern of Iran, you have a tribe called the Baluchis. In southwest of Iran, regular Arabs. Iranians aren't Arabs. Arabs are not Persian.
Right.
The Arabs feel as if the Persians stole their land. All these tribes are anti-Ayatollah Khomeini, anti-Iran.
Right.
These groups are inside Iran. Not to mention the whole Sunni Muslim world, who are dying for someone to lead them against the Iranians. These are the groups that the Israelis are trying to consolidate with, stand with, pull together over there. These are things that I didn't know. And I don't know if you've even heard of these groups. I really... we didn't even get through the video. I have a video of one of these briefings on the Syrian. I mean, these 3 weeks have been 20 minutes. I've given you 20 minutes of information.
Right.
That was a 30-minute briefing. So there's so much information. It's
Right.
unlimited information that I have. But next week we're going to move on. All right? And it's going to get, we're going to get back into a short spiritual teaching. I'm going to go 5 minutes next week of stats on Lebanon, because I think you need to hear about Hezbollah. Yeah. Because that's a different game over there in Lebanon.
Yep.
This is another border. It's one of the top 10 artilleries in the world. I'll just tell you that. Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Yeah.
If you rank artilleries, just the artilleries of armies, Hezbollah would be the top 10 in the world. And we'll just spend 5 to 7 minutes on that before moving on to another subject. And people are like, well, why, why all this? Because Genesis 12, 1-3, the Lord said to Abram, the first Jew ever, go for yourself, for your own advantage, away from your country, from your relatives, and your father's house, to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you with abundant increase and favors, and make your name famous and distinguished, and you will be a blessing, dispensing good to others. I will bless those who bless you. This is what the Lord is saying. I will confer, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. Who confer prosperity and happiness on you, I will curse him who curses you. This is why you have organizations that are 11 million strong, like Christians United for Israel, to lobby, because we don't want to be cursed.
Right.
We don't want the United States cursed, and curse him who curses you or uses insolent language towards you. And you will all the families in Israel, will all the families and kindred of the earth be blessed. And by you, they will be blessed themselves. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that you bless them, our main scripture here, you see it in the opening every week. I've set a watchman upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day or night. That's all we're doing. We're a watchman on the walls from a Jerusalem perspective, and ye that make mention of the Lord, and we will not keep silent. Yeah. That is why we're doing it. So sorry to go on and on there.
No, it's good stuff.
Next week it'll be like 5 minutes on Hezbollah and Lebanon, as part of that Ring of Fire.
Okay.
All right. So I feel like we're on Saturday Night Live, and we got, what's her name? What was her name?
Tina Fey?
No, the old school lady. She was famous. She made the news famous. She was Rosanna Dana at one point. Rosanna Dana.
And I know what you're talking about. It is. She was
died.
on.
I think the lady.
She did.
Sorry,
she did.
But
It's okay.
go ahead, Rosanna.
What a
No, this lady.
No,
she did the news for
yeah.
Saturday Night
Was
Live.
she funny?
She was the.
She was hilarious.
Okay.
Hilarious.
She was original. When Saturday Night Live, you had the real people.
As long as you're relating to me
John Belushi,
about
Eddie
someone
Murphy,
that's funny.
Chevy Chase, all those people.
Okay. I'll take that compliment if she's funny, because I think I'm funny.
You
Am I
wanna
funny?
be
I do want to be funny. Okay.
Lonaiah was highly offended because she
Was
had,
it Jane Curtin?
she had worked. Let me see.
You can go away from your mic to look at the picture.
No, not her. You're talking about
curly black hair.
Yeah.
Listen,
I know what you're talking about.
Are you going to tell the story of one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had an Israel tour, and we threw a party when we got back. We don't do that anymore. We don't throw parties after the Israel tour, so don't.
We were with a bunch of interns. They were young
Gilda
kids.
Radner.
It was
Gilda Radner.
Oh, yes, I know who she
She's
is.
hilarious.
Show the picture.
I know who she is.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Gilda. Listen.
Gilda.
And so we made this thing, like we made up these dumb certificates. And so Lonaiah comes up with this idea, like, let's hand them all certificates, like they actually accomplished something.
Like they graduated, like it's a
from
graduation.
the Israel tour. We're at Lonaiah's beautiful house.
It's like being doxxed right on a podcast.
I'm not gonna. You can like go on Google and you can put in someone's name and you can get their house number,
Of course you can.
their email address, their cell phone number.
Records
No, like why can you look all that up?
because it's public.
Why though? Why? Go ahead.
Because.
Anyways, I played High Hopes. You know the song High Hopes
She's
for
like,
a
Jim,
living.
Oh, you got.
let's put the high hopes on.
Yeah, it's with the trumpet.
While we're handing out their certificate and call their names up. Like it's really official.
Was funny.
And so Lonaiah turns on the music and she starts dancing. And I'm just kind of watching this, right?
Yeah.
And then
it was a moment.
It's just this scene.
And
then after the whole thing, we hand out and everybody just kind of...
There's like 35 people there.
They're kind of insecure about getting their certificate, which we're being sarcastic about.
But hold on. After a few people, they would come up and shake our hand and pose for a picture we were the
pose for pictures and
headmasters of the school.
Right.
And
and he looked at me and he was like, said, "You're funny." And
you know what, Lonaiah? You really are funny. And she was so offended.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I was so offended. I was like, I've worked for you.
It took me like 7 years to
think
realize
it was funny.
She was funny. Okay, that's her biggest
accomplishment in life is to be funny.
Is to be considered funny.
It is.
I had people stop me last night saying they like the podcast, and both of them told me that Lonaiah is funny.
That's funny. I did hear some people, they said I was funny, and I was like, thanks, guys.
That's, if she could have anything in life, it would be considered
humor.
To be a funny person.
The Bible says that laughter makes what is it? What is the scripture?
Laughter makes the soul warm?
No, it's something about medicine.
Laughter does
is medicine
good like
for
a
the
medicine.
soul. Yeah, see?
It's not chicken. It's not chicken soup for the soul. That's a mixed metaphor. But
you think Jesus was funny? I'm pretty sure Jesus was funny. You're not going to have that many people following you around if you're not funny. Yeah,
you had to have a sense of humor to go through all that torture.
That's true. You did.
With those guys. Those guys were annoying. Remember when the disciples were arguing about who was the greatest?
Hey, when we get to heaven.
But you guys, why
not only that, but have their moms argue about it too.
That's funny.
About who's the greatest.
But can I tell you something?
He's got to break up an argument. We don't even do that here. Maybe a little.
Think where they came to that point where they're arguing.
Yeah.
Who's like, just think of kind of what Jesus was doing behind the scenes, like to each of them, like you're my favorite. Like, you have kids, right? And you're like, don't tell the others, but you're my favorite. Like, he probably did that kind of stuff.
And
Jeff Berquist is God's favorite.
Well, nobody can beat Jeff Berquist.
No.
Not even a little bit.
He's a gem.
There's no one nicer, first of all.
I know.
And he's like a
the ultimate Minnesotan, really.
He is. Niceness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But not Minnesota nice?
Passive aggressive nice, you mean?
That's not him.
No, there's no passive aggressiveness in him.
No, there's not. But that's Minnesota. Like when you hear people talk about it, they're like, "Oh, you're from Minnesota," and you're like, "Yeah," and then they're like, "Are you guys really passive aggressive up there?" I'm like, "Some people."
Super.
A lot of people are.
A lot of people.
Minnesota nice. That's just like the South.
I know.
They tell everybody that the South is so polite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they'll be polite.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not. But just like I'm making fun of Minnesota nice. All right, in the South they're so polite,
you know what?
And they're so nice. And if they've never met you, well, they ask you all kinds of questions and talk to you.
But see, they talk to you with their accent.
The minute you leave.
Wow, Jim. Are you okay?
What
do you have some personal experiences there?
Let's just be honest.
They rip on you.
They're not that nice. Minnesotans aren't that nice.
They asked all the questions so that they have good gossip after.
Minnesotans will stop and help you in the car, though.
Absolutely.
With the car, okay? They definitely will do that.
For sure.
Yes, that has happened.
But they're not nice like the South. I mean, you walk through a grocery store in the South, everybody greets each other like they really do know each other. And to me, here's the thing.
You're that guy that you're like, hi.
It seems so
I'm just trying to get my milk.
But it seems so fake, right? You don't know me.
Jim.
You don't know me, right? And you know, but you're acting like you know me.
My family, I get some of that from my dad. My dad will go into a waiting room.
Ronnie.
A stranger is just a best friend he hasn't met yet. That is, and
I have a kid like that. It's too much. I'm like, what are you? Get over here. We're not talking to people.
I know we're way off course, but look.
I'm not even going to go where I go. I avoid.
I'm just being straight, right? When you walk through the grocery store,
it has to do with your personality.
Aren't that nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, in the South, what I'm saying is they act nice, right? But I've seen it myself.
Oh, bless your heart.
And they will tear you up and down the minute you walk out of that place.
Sorry, Jim, for your
We love all of you, no matter where you're from and where you're watching from.
Right.
God bless you.
Yes, we
bless
might have
your
to edit
heart.
that.
It's funny. It's funny.
Don't edit.
My friend who's from Texas. There's a little.
Texas ain't the South.
She's like, let me, because our kids room together, and she's like, let me call them because my accent is so sweet and you can be a little harsh, Lonaiah.
Hello?
There's some. My son is supposed to take his driver's test today, and I just got a
tell
text
your sister she was just on
from
the
my
podcast.
husband that he forgot all the paperwork at home and they had to drive all the way to Faribault. So poor Wrigley on his birthday.
Faribault
It was the Lord saving him.
But it's
Okay. What?
He's driven all 50 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know.
DMV. We really appreciate.
I was being sarcastic. All right.
Anyways, so there's a little bit of drama, so that's why I was on the phone. Anyways,
And your twin sister is involved.
Yeah.
No. So
she has to go to my house and take pictures and send things.
Of what?
Of like, you know how you have to
the
like, you
documents?
have to have
The
like
docs.
the yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So John, you'll reply to Lindsay while I'm.
I got you. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we should have talked to her, put her on speaker. That would have been great. That's what I was trying
Bless
to
her
right.
heart.
Well, at some point, we're going
Guys.
to have people calling in on speaker, right?
Well, you know, you can look my number up on Google.
You gotta keep
Hi,
it closer.
Lindsay.
There you
We're
go.
recording the podcast, so you're on.
You're
This
on,
is my
Linz.
twin sister.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast.
Hi. That's Minnesota nice.
Hi.
Are you at my house?
Yeah, I just found it, so I'll take pictures of all of it and send it.
Okay, thank
Really?
you.
We can all agree in prayer that
Wrigley passes his driver's test.
Especially driving that far to get a.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Lindsay.
After only driving 8
Okay, love
hours.
you. Bye.
Okay.
That was fun. In case you didn't know, I do have a twin sister. We are identical twins.
Oh.
Yep. Supposedly identical twins, but really funny before I start the news.
Supposedly.
Because let me tell you why. We have done the Minnesota, the University of Minnesota does a twin study, and we've done it since we were 11 years old.
Yeah.
We're the longest like twins in the study.
Wow.
And maybe like 5 years ago, they do all these tests. So you like put all these things on your head, and you do all these like brain activity tests. They do blood tests. They do all these like, you go to psychology and you talk to all these psychologists, and they try to like analyze how you are.
How funny you are.
Way funnier than her.
All right.
She's very serious. She's the complete opposite of me. She's the nicest person you'll ever meet. But so we got this letter that said, "Hey, I just want you to know that your test came
Not
back
actually related."
inconclusive, and we're not sure if you guys are identical twins. So if you want, we'll pay for you to take an actual DNA test." And I like read the letter. I was like, okay. She reads the letter. She's Lonaiah, did
You're
you
still
see the
twins.
letter? No, she's like, I feel like I'm adopted now. Like, I thought we were identical twins and we're not. I was like, Lindsay, if you want to take the test and you want to go get our blood drawn, I'll do it. But I will say that we're identical twins for the rest of our lives if that's what you want. She's like, I do want that. I was like,
You are identical. twins.
okay, the only time we look like each other is when she's not wearing makeup. So I'm like, on your worst day, we look identical.
But in
That
high
is amazing.
school, you did.
We looked identical?
You looked identical.
yeah.
In middle school and when they were.
Maybe
they were
I'll
little.
bring a picture on next week and
Sounds like a
show
good
the
time.
people. But anyways,
And they were on the same volleyball team, same softball team, fast pitch softball.
basketball until Jim.
Let's not talk about it. She should have never gone to cheerleading. All right,
Then she
listen.
became a cheerleader. Okay,
Okay,
news.
here we go.
Okay,
Sorry, I hope we have just kept a few people on.
maybe some people like this.
It's just
content.
getting good.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
It is.
Let's
Okay.
do the news.
So this week, I have honestly received an overwhelming number of texts, emails, phone calls about this. It's been all over my social media. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the Minnesota Senate has passed 3 bills. I think Friday it was 3 bills. So they passed the transgender protection bill. Minnesota would be an abortion refuge.
Yep.
Refuge place.
Yep.
And they would
Sanctuary
legalize
state.
marijuana. Yes.
Whoa.
So the abortion bill that we have talked about in the past was Bill SF 70 HF 91. So the passing of this bill, this is like really disgusting, would repeal numerous longstanding abortion-related laws in Minnesota, including a law protecting newborns who survive abortion from being left to die. So the lady, she's from the Minnesota Citizens Concern for Life organization, and this is her statements. Her name is Kathy Blazer. She said, this utterly extreme bill would leave virtually no protection for unborn children at any stage of pregnancy on the books in Minnesota. This is the most appalling bill that's ever been passed. It's callous and it's cruel. This makes abortion and the after effects of it limitless. Basically, anything goes with this. So...
Very terrible.
Very terrible.
Molech, the god Molech, the Old Testament god Molech.
Yes.
That's
And
what that is. We're sacrificing babies.
It's so sad. But Daniel, who is a avid podcast listener, he sends things in regularly.
Thank you, Daniel.
He is amazing.
He's ahead of us.
He is ahead
He's
of us.
actually ahead of us.
Awesome.
So he sent me this saying that because of the so many people were protesting this. People showed up at the state capitol. They're protesting this. The Senate had to pause it, and they had said, we have to rethink this bill because they got so much backlash from it. So I know we always say this, but your voice does matter. Because now they put this bill on pause.
Yep.
Which is amazing.
Right.
What does that mean? Call your senator.
Yes.
Call your senator.
Call
even
your
yesterday,
Can I add
even
something?
yesterday, yes, at 3:00 in the afternoon, there was thousands of protesters on the state capitol.
Yeah, not senator, but call your state legislature from your area.
Yep.
Listen, and sorry,
What?
go
No,
ahead.
I don't have anything else, John.
Well, I just was at a Osseo School District board meeting this week because my sister Michelle was speaking in protection of kids in light of a lot of the transgender rules that are being pushed through that school district. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And really, when you put your voice out there and stand for something, it gives other people a reason to stand up as well. And we saw a lot of people who weren't saying anything in the crowd, but afterwards said, thank you for speaking.
But it's like you see somebody standing up and you're like, there's somebody else who believes what I believe.
Yep.
Like
and
you kind of feel like alone, like you're alone in your battle until you see somebody stand up and you're like, oh, they believe what I believe.
Absolutely.
Like
So
I went to the
you gotta
Elevation
do it.
concert last week, and can I say there's 9,000 people there, and I was like, look at all these people.
Yeah.
There is more than just us in this fight here.
Absolutely.
It was kind of like, it was encouraging.
Don't be afraid to add your voice. Don't
Even
be afraid
though
to
there was
stand
weed
up.
everywhere.
There was, you guys, the
Sorry.
amount of...
It's just the truth.
But speaking of, we are trying to legalize marijuana here in Minnesota, but the weed smell, I was like, okay.
Well, people think it's been,
We're getting to the weed thing.
Well,
but okay, so the Minnesota...
Well, I will say that I met Daniel once in church, and Daniel...
He's a good dude.
Daniel looks like a movie star.
He does.
Does he? I've never seen
I'm not
Daniel.
being weird or anything, okay? Like that, but...
He's a good dude.
No, if you're...
Well, Daniel, thank you for your content.
When they're movie star
And
looks.
your movie star looks. So the Senate also passed the trans refuge state bill. So same thing as California. If a child comes to visit or wants to sex change and their parents won't allow them to, they move or they come here.
Yeah.
They just have to get here.
Right.
And then the taxpayers will pay for this.
Yeah.
But taxpayers are fighting this because they're like, why do we want to pay for abortions that I don't believe in? Why do I want to pay for children to get mutilated? It is mutilation of children.
And we talked about this before. There is a major, there's more than just ideology behind it. There are dollars and dollars and dollars and thousands and millions of dollars.
It is a racket
behind that because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for the hospital or the clinic that performs that.
And you guys, like not only that, but you do the surgery. Have you had surgery before? It doesn't always go perfectly. Sometimes you have issues for a long time. And I've heard more stories than not of people who have issues after this.
Well, because
you are
talking
about
transgenders.
Yes,
because your body,
they hide that.
Yeah.
They hide that fact.
It doesn't. You don't stop needing to take those hormones and those drugs to continue that process. That is a forever thing. It's not a surgery and it's done.
Don't you feel though, like with all this? They're taking away identities of people, so you don't identify with. Yeah. There's so much confusion there.
Not to mention ruining women's sports.
Right.
Okay.
Or not even sports, but just the
definition
space,
of a woman.
The space for women in our culture.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a. It's a big.
It is a big
fight.
thing, but
and
you know
we need to stand up.
We do need to stand up. In Tennessee, they did bar it from happening, the sex surgeries because what's that really big college there that's like
Tennessee
Vanderbilt.
State.
Vanderbilt was the number one leading for child transgender.
They shut their whole thing down.
But the Biden Department of Justice is now suing the state of Tennessee over a bill barring child sex change procedures on the ground that it allegedly violates the equal protection clause. Is that crazy?
Equal protection clause.
Like, what is happening here?
Because it's madness. It doesn't make sense.
It is madness.
The goddess of Ishtar. It is.
It is. It is.
We did some.
We did.
We told you where this comes from.
Yep.
This is nothing new. All right.
And can I tell you?
There was. Can I just say this?
Yeah, go ahead.
They found through archaeological digs, praise songs to the goddess Ishtar. Mm-hmm. Bible, she's called Ashtaroth. Mm-hmm. Switched. Became repackaged with the Romans.
Yep.
But they found praise songs to her saying she's the god that changes a woman to a man.
Wow.
And a man to a woman. This is that goddess.
Yeah.
And she always came after Baal. Some called her the wife of Baal in some areas. So this is what this is. She's just repackaged, set up. Malek's back. They're all here. They're all here. The gang's all here.
They are all
here.
here.
We invited them in, and we went through all that and how that happened.
Maybe in general, but not personally. We didn't.
No, we did not.
No, we didn't. That's why we're still here.
I'm saying this country invited them in.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
But speaking of...
Let's kick them out.
Yeah, let's kick them out. So the Minnesota Democrats, they literally have an agenda here. So do you guys know who Lee Fink is? He's like the first transgender, I think like congressperson or I don't know what he is. House representative. Okay. Yeah. So he is leading this. This is his bill that he wants to pass. It's disgusting. So he wants to legitimize pedophilia in Minnesota.
Yep.
So he wants to remove the language from the state's human rights bill, which clarifies that pedophilia is not included in the protected sexual orientation class. So he wants to make, if you're a human attracted to minors, he wants to put that in. Now it's a protected class like LGBTQA people.
Right.
So I know you guys. So
they're gonna keep adding more and more.
House Republicans are fighting it. Thank
plus.
God. But
we don't have enough Republicans up here in the House.
No.
Yeah. If you guys
effectively fight
if you don't think that elections this coming year
matter, you guys
are so important,
and
you are wrong. You need to get involved, and you need to be a part of what's going on.
Everything I've said to you is by the Minnesota Democrats. So this I saw this morning. Minnesota Democrats are pushing for a state-run database to track citizens for hate speech.
Right. Okay, hold on now. I just want to say this is not just coming from. This is articles. Look down, scroll down, and you can see and read the articles for yourselves where Lonaiah is finding this, where she's finding this information.
I have them all. They're all there.
But I'm sure that like Channel 11 News, didn't put it like pedophilia.
No.
Right? They twist the words.
Right.
If they even mention it on their news.
Even say
What's
it
that
at all.
word? What was that?
Human.
Let me see the last page. Legitimize pedophilia. They're not saying it like that. But the truth is
physical or sexual attachment to children.
That's what he's doing. Okay? That's what that legislation says. Read the article. We're not making it up. All right?
Absolutely.
It's disgusting. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but over in the UK, they're making it legal for a child to consent to sex at any age, and it's not illegal as long as the child consents. I mean, you have a kid. You say you want to go to the bathroom, I'll give you a treat. They say yes. That child's not consenting.
Thank God my children are 29 and 26.
No kidding.
How much easier was it? 2010.
Yeah. So I don't know. I started wondering why Minnesota, but he's going to board meetings and making a difference.
Yeah.
But he just was asking me about homeschool the other day.
That's true.
Well, so
I mean, hey,
who hasn't thought about homeschooling?
Just because my kid is in a homeschool doesn't mean I'm not a taxpayer in that.
That's true.
School
You're
district.
still money's.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but you know, and,
my taxes go to that school district.
Schools
And I would like to have a school that I'm allowed to, that I feel comfortable sending my child to.
Right.
And so I will continue, no matter what we do with our kids, that we will fight for what is right for education and make sure it's education and not some activism ideology.
Right.
Which is what the public education is turned into.
Yeah, which I'm getting to, because
Minnesota.
I started wondering, why is all of a sudden Minnesota looking like California? Well, this article, just the Lord literally, it was in my inbox the next day. I was praying about it. And this is by Bill Glenn, and it says Minnesota for sale, the Silicon Valley connection. So tech giants from the left coast were big donors to state Democrats in the last election cycle. I have the whole article. You can read the whole thing.
Yeah.
But basically,
So why do they care?
Why do
tech
they care?
Giants from the left coast. That's really West Coast. Left coast. Right?
Google CEO, co-founder, and founders were of the highest donors. And my son he's in college, he had to do this research paper on Frankenstein, the Mary Shelley thing. And he sent me a lecture from this guy who was talking about the ethics of it all. This guy wasn't saved. And he was saying that in 2005, the Google founder, I can't remember the guy's name, was going to the state capitol, state senate, House representatives, telling all these people that we don't really care what you teach children. They don't need to know all that. All they need, this is from 2005. This is how long they've been pushing this agenda. All they need to know is how to operate their cell phones. That's all they need to be able to do. We don't care about what they learn in school. We don't care about any of that, because we'll be able to control them with their devices. There's
an article.
That is,
it's on here.
We're not just making that up.
No.
That goes back to even the
I'll link the lecture, because
Okay.
the guy isn't saved, and he's like, this is the closest thing to the Antichrist that I have heard yet. And I was like, Caden, is that guy saved? He's like, no, Mom, he's not saved. He's just a lecturer.
I just had to, I feel like I know I'm changing things around a lot.
Go ahead.
But I got to make something clear. Not all Minnesotans are not nice, okay? I just thought about that.
No, we have a lot of nice Minnesotans.
Yes, you do. And like I said, Minnesotans do stop. They do stop, and they always help with the car. But I'm just saying it's overblown. Just like the Southern thing.
You betcha.
You betcha. Just like the Southern thing, how they're so amazing down there. They're so much nicer. Overblown. That's all I'm saying. Okay, there's nice people all over the place.
There's probably a good mix of everybody everywhere. And
Don't you think
it really just
it has to do
depends
with your
on how
personality?
your parents also play a big part into it, right?
Yeah, they do. Where was I? Oh,
No,
when I was going.
Your parents don't have any influence in who you are, Lonaiah?
Not anymore. I mean, yeah, I guess they did, but I didn't want to have to obey them when they made me say hi to people.
It's not about being obeyed or
They
not.
did make it. You will say hi to that person when she comes up.
Now, do you feel a little bit guilty if you don't say hi to people?
No, I avoid people.
Deborah, you failed. I'm sorry.
You know, I'm 55 years old, and just before I went on the Israel tour, the CUFI John Hagee Rabbi Scheinberg Fellowship Tour. Before my mom said, "Now, Jim, you be nice and you smile at everybody and you say hi to everybody on the bus
he's
every day,
55.
and you talk to everybody because my mom knows." Never mind.
That Jim is an introvert.
All of those people.
Yeah.
But if you're an introvert, I'm an introvert.
I know all their parents.
It's a lot. I'm not like, I don't get stressed to talk to people. I can do good small talk, but it does drain me. It takes energy from me. It does. It does. And if you're an extrovert, talking to people gives you life and energy. But if you're an introvert, it's like it's work kind of.
Sometimes on the way into work, I'm like, man, I just can't wake up until I see,
people?
3 or 4 people, and then I'm like, all right, this is gonna be a good day.
I hope no one says hi to me walking in. I got nothing.
We come in.
Usually it's me that you see. I'm like,
we literally walk in our offices right there. Thank God, because I think if I had to walk and say hi, I wouldn't be here still.
Minnesota nice. Okay, what's
not Minnesota nice? I'm a realist. Okay, people.
Minnesota real.
Yeah, Minnesota real. Okay. Okay. So I don't know
where we're going with that.
Where are we going?
This is just a different one today.
You know what? People like when we talk.
Like it, let us know. If you like it, let us know. Where we just kind of just go with it. All right.
Like I said, we're realists. We're being real people.
Yeah.
We're saying the things most people don't want to say.
Telling you what we think.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys have heard about the border, that there's going to be a...
Which border?
The border.
The southern border?
United States.
Yes.
The southern?
I don't know what direction it is.
Yeah.
But
Mexican
Biden
border?
administration is prepping for a surge in border crossings because COVID-19 restrictions are ending. So they are expecting like 1 million more people to come to the border.
In how long?
Like right now.
I'm just so tired of that.
But you know what else they're doing at the border really quick? Because there's a lot going on at the border. Because I heard Kamala Harris she was talking on a news show this weekend explaining that the Trump administration left them with such unsecure borders and no policies put in place, which I have facts for that right now. No policies put in place.
As they tear down his wall.
Yeah, he's like,
As they tear
they're
down
like,
the wall.
we need strong borders. Look what they left
There
us
was an
with.
influx of
they tear down
immigrants
the wall.
crossing because of that. So just some fun facts for you. In 2016, which is the year before Trump came into office, there's 530,000 individuals that crossed the border that year. Okay. Then Trump took office and he said, I'm going to have, there's going to be a decline. I'm cracking down on who's allowed and what's happening.
Right.
In 2018, there's only 396,579 people, the fifth lowest since 1973. Guess how many in 2022? 2.76 million people, which was 1 million more than the year before.
That many.
So
And the year before was 1.6.
Yes. So since Biden took office, we've had 4.9 million illegal aliens come here. And you know what?
And they're getting driver's licenses. They're becoming
Some
police
of them,
officers in California.
Yeah, it's California.
And
a lot of them can vote.
And you guys, these people that they're allowing in,
They're voting, probably?
They're
Are
voting.
they voting yet?
Yep.
Trying.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to give bills for them. So the Democrats in the House and state are introducing legislation to make it harder to hold illegal aliens in custody if they qualify as vulnerable persons. So if you identify as gay, lesbian, or transgender, you're considered a vulnerable person and they will let you go. Okay? So this brings us to, this is just a lot of information. So there's this whistleblower who worked for the Department of Homeland Security for 20 years. Her name is Tara Lee Rhodes. And she met with Project Veritas James O'Keefe before they fired him.
Google her. Tara Lee
can I just-
Rhodes. W-A-R.
Yeah,
Can I say something
R-O-D.
before we move on with that?
All these articles
this
are connected.
This was a whistleblower that was on the inside.
So
Right.
I just want to say, again, no one here is saying that anyone should be seen as less than valuable and have dignity. We are saying everybody should be treated equally.
Yes.
And our laws should also be obeyed.
Yes.
We don't think that you should just open your borders,
Right.
is what we think, and just let anyone in. No country does that, right? Check out
Right.
some other countries. Look at Singapore. Look at any of these countries.
Right.
Look at Israel.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm saying that is dangerous. You don't know who you're letting in.
Yep.
We've already told you they're emptying their prisons
Yeah.
Yep.
in Central and South America.
Sending
and
them here.
sending their criminals up to our open borders. And we're not saying that everyone doesn't deserve a shot. But you
Right.
know what? When you try to do it right,
Yes.
and because we're trying to bring in people to work in the Spanish church,
Right.
and help. We have a Spanish church here.
Yeah.
And do you know what? They turned us down.
Right.
Right.
Trying to do it
You have
right.
to pay $10,000 and you have to get a lawyer and you try to do it right. No, he can't come in.
Right.
And it makes you want to say, well, just go to the border.
Right.
Just
and
take
walk
a-
across.
Take a flight to Mexico and.
But you guys, they're allowing the M613 gang members. They just released
Yeah.
one out of prison and he just killed his Uber driver the other night. Just,
the M13s.
yes.
Yeah.
So there are, yes, I'm all for
It's
equal
if
rights
they're
and,
trying to bring the
MS-13s.
country down.
but,
That's what it's.
But-
it
It feels like that.
but this should be appalling to you because
I am appalled
this
already.
whistleblower is saying that the government is delivering migrant children to human traffickers.
Yeah.
So this lady, it was her job to vet the sponsors who take the kids in. She would go and visit the kids at these houses, and she said that we are literally the middleman. The U.S. government is the middleman for human child
Delivering.
sex trafficking, delivering the children to these homes, and they are providing them with these kids. And I know this is going to be really vile, and this is shocking, but this is what's happening. There was an 8-year-old girl who had 57 different forms of DNA.
Yeah.
When they tested her.
When they,
because of this, because of people like this saying this is what's happening.
Wow.
8 years old.
Remember, you can catch us on Spotify, Rumble, and Apple Podcasts too.
We're delivering the truth, and I'm going to get there because I have some Tucker Carlson
why
things.
you need to be involved and raise your voice, because
it is.
It's more than just we believe in the Bible. They don't. That's not it. It is for life. It is to protect children. This is where that line is.
They're
has
vulnerable.
become.
They're not.
Is protecting children.
Right. So Tara Lee Rhodes says whether intentional.
Tara Lee Rhodes.
Yes, I have it all linked.
Yes.
Whether intentional or not, it could be argued that the U.S. government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off the lives of children. And I watched her 6-minute thing, and I was in tears.
But no one's allowed to talk about that.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
It's just really, really sad. So, but we do have a voice, and it is hard to talk about these things. It is hard to talk about these things and deal with them. But when you start to pray about them and you actually seek the Lord, He will give us answers. Like, look, He's already stopped a few things from happening. But speaking of free speech and being canceled and shut down, I know probably a lot of you have heard that Tucker Carlson is no longer working with Fox News.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different theories out there on why Tucker's gone.
Well, of course they're going to slander him.
And what he did, but basically they're saying it was his religious view. So I didn't know this about Tucker Carlson. I listened to a Charlie Kirk podcast the other day.
Yeah.
And he talked about it. So when Tucker Carlson came to Fox News, it was, I think, like the week after Trump got into the White House, and he was a libertarian.
Yeah.
And he started hearing what Trump was saying and like exposing truth. And he's like, I'm going to get behind that. Finally, we have somebody who's in here who's trying to like bring truth to situations. So he just kind of started propelling that information. And now he's no longer a libertarian. He's
more conservative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was saying this is, so he gave a speech last night. I feel like it was at the time that his show was on, and it has like 42 million views or something.
Exactly.
But this is what he said, because he broke a silence. But he said, when honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful.
Yes.
At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail.
Yes.
Listen, and I'm telling you, Fox, all these people, and it seems like the older generation, I don't mean to offend anybody, I think Fox News is so great. Look, Rupert Murdoch's sons are running this thing now. It's not the original guy. And they are not conservative, all right? And that is why Tucker Carlson got fired.
And also because he was...
And he's the last remaining. Okay, I'm mark my words. Fox News will not be anything you can watch.
No,
They're going to do it slowly.
Yeah.
Within 5 years, Fox News will be a watered down CNN. Okay?
Yeah.
A little bit better than CNN. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it'll be, because the people that own it are not for what Tucker Carlson was reporting.
Right.
And that's why
we're standing
let him go.
And also his religious views was one of the reasons cited too.
It's funny to hear him talk about it. The week before they let him go, he was talking about how he had a shallow religious background. Like it was maybe Christian, but it wasn't a deep relationship. And so he's like, this, don't take it from me. You gotta develop that for yourself. But obviously he has grown, and he definitely grew a pair.
And he has a voice.
He does have a voice. I don't mind saying that.
And Russell Brand actually did a good clip on him yesterday and said this will be interesting because Tucker Carlson's gotten a lot of offers to see where he goes, to see if he goes with an independent where he has a voice and he's not kind of mainstreamed and controlled and told what to say.
Well, one of those things that he was saying was he's like, hey, I was out there supporting the Iraq war.
Right.
And he's like, at this point now, I was just shilling for a side and I didn't know it.
And
I feel like that was wrong.
One more thing can I say about Tucker Carlson? Do you know who's excited that Tucker Carlson left? The Department of Defense. Yeah. They tweeted about it, how excited they were. Why? AOC, The View. Like, these are the people who are like, yes, finally, you got rid of
Except for,
guy.
I think he's going to have a bigger voice
Oh,
because
yes.
he's not going to be chained to
You
a
guys,
Fox
three-
desk.
Because
3
Glenn
million
Glenn Beck was big.
Yep.
No voice.
Yeah.
Or he's got a
Yeah,
voice.
he
He's got a
does.
bigger
It's not
voice
the
now.
same.
He has $1 million.
It's not the same. He has $1 million. What did he have when he was with Fox?
I don't know, but Tucker Carlson had 3 million watching tonight, and last night his video had 42 million.
Okay. I will just, as we're gonna close down this episode of the Final Hour podcast. Please subscribe. It only helps us. If it's possible to share. Can they share stuff,
Yes.
Jerry? Can they share stuff?
Yes.
Share it.
Please.
Share it. And we know that you were talking about Tucker Carlson. He grew a pair of shoes.